Hey everyone, I'm Devin, your friendly neighborhood board gamer, and this is Devin Talks Tabletop, the YouTube channel where the games are made up. What I say doesn't matter, and this is take two. I did something wonderful. I talked for 15 minutes straight, and boy howdy, was it a good 15 minutes. I gave insightful commentary. I gave concise summary. I gave just glowing praise of certain aspects of these games. And then I realized that my top cam was not on. And so when I did stuff like this, and I said, look at this gorgeous artwork, the prospective viewers who would have been on the camera or on the other side of the camera, they were looking at me like I was an idiot because that wasn't on, which means when I said that, you couldn't see any of it. So let's go ahead and start all over. This is 1565 St. Elmo's Pay. Looking at the Siege of Malta from that time period in history. This is 1815 Scum of the Earth, focusing on the Battle of Waterloo between Napoleon and the Duke of Wellington. These are two games that are completely independent or standalone, but they are also connected through the historic epic battle system, which was started with the release of 1066 Tears to Many Mothers, which relived the Battle of Hastings. These are three titles, all designed by Tristan, published by Hall or Nothing Productions, which, in congress with each other, turn into a much larger ordeal. They become greater than the sum of the parts. They become a whole thing, which is the historic epic battle system. This is a one-on-one, it's a two-player experience, and you are in this lane battling system in which you're laying down cards, and then you have different rows on which you're laying those cards and different levels of the columns in which those are connected to. And that's going to create ranged units. It's going to create cavalry units. It's going to create artillery units. It's going to create infantry units, all of whom are going to be vying for safety and then also the point of aggression towards your opponent, who will be creating a similar card structure. These are card games that function in a very realistic historical setting through which you're going to be progressing in different events along a historical timeline. And in the meantime, creating a rather lean economy in terms of being able to afford and then introduce new cards to it. Each opponent is going to have a deck from one side of the battle. You'll either have Napoleon, or you'll have the Duke of Wellington, or you'll have the Knights of St. John, or you'll have Suleiman the Magnificent's siege army. Or in 1066, you'll have the Normans or the Saxons. Whichever side is involved in any of these battles, you're going to pick one of them, and then you're going to field their army onto the table. The nice thing is, the more of these that you have in the game, the more actual combinations of outside the box encounters you can accomplish. So if I want to, I could take Napoleon's army from here and fight against the Knights of St. John in here. I could take Suleiman the Magnificent's army here and fight against the Saxons from 1066. So the more that you invest in this system, the more reward you get, or the more return on that investment you have. So I don't know why I'm spinning these, but apparently that's what I'm doing. I think the main thing I wanted to do is just shift one of these off to the side and focus on the second title in the series, 1565 St. Elmo's Pay. Now that I have a glorious top-down, I can actually look at the contents, which I have totally already opened, #RIP Cheese Knife. So I'm going to take an interlude for just a moment. Timestamp. Now that my unsweet tea respite is over, I'm going to look at the contents of this game. So you have the rules here, which give you the contents, the credits, all of the good stuff. It gives you the overall system of how you function. So as you see this example layout here, you have the objectives of the Ottomans, the objectives of the Maltese Knights, and then you have the decks, the discard piles, and then you have this layout. And this layout right here focuses on the lanes, or the main theaters of battle, and then where you're going to field the soldiers. And so you're going to have front line soldiers, you're going to have kind of in the middle, and then you're going to have the rear guard, or kind of the back of the line units that you'll have across there. So Malta and Ottoman, these are the two sides of the war that you're going to have in 1565, and then you'll know how to play with all of the different card abilities, the relatively tight, as I previously mentioned, economy in terms of paying for those cards to come out. There is solo play available, and then there is a nice, lovely flowchart that I don't recall from 1066, but very well could have been there. It has been a while since I accessed that title. You've got all of the tokens that you'll need to value out the shifting strength and power and growth of these. You'll have all of these tokens here, which are going to denote the amount of damage that a unit has taken. And you have the first player token, and then you have the respective decks. So this is the Malta deck, and this is the Ottoman deck, and each of these are going to have characters in them that will boast a certain value in all of these different arenas, or they may be event cards or attachments. Attachments like this one here go on to another unit, and then this character right here means that it is a unit to itself. You'll also have tactic cards and event cards, all of which will come into play as you get going. So you have two different things that you're doing in these games. The first thing that you're doing is you're trying to outwit, outfox, outstrategize the opponent. But the second thing that you're doing in these games is you're progressing through objectives. These objectives typically follow the line of events in alongside the historical setting. So maybe events that lead up to the battle, maybe major moments within the battle, but you're going to have these objectives that you push through, and that's actually how you advance the game to the end state. You're not immediately going to resolve the strength of your sections or your lanes as soon as you have a round over. You're actually going to be progressively attacking the other units that are in your opponent's lanes or your opponent's rows and columns. You're going to be trying to deal damage to their leader if you're able to. And then at the end of it, though, you're pushing through these objectives to get to the end, at which point you'll be able to resolve and see who wins the battle. In 1815 here, that means it's whoever is Napoleon and whoever is the Duke of Wellington, which was kind of the military leader that came to power or wide recognition within the fight with Napoleon, and he led the British forces. I am familiar much more with this time period rather than that because I read through the Bernard Cornwell Sharpe series, which is a historical fiction series that takes the charge of a rifleman who goes, through the British Indian Wars and then all the way through the Napoleonic era. So I really like that. If you like historical fiction, I fully recommend Bernard Cornwell as a writer and the Sharpe series as a character and world to latch onto. But we have the flowchart here, more solo play instructions, and then once again you have the French deck here, and then the British deck here, which seems to, I think, be augmented or bolstered by the presence of some Prussian fighters as well. So you have the exact same system here, where you've got all of these different health tokens for the different sides and the tokens that will temporarily boost or negate some of the value and strength of your enemies. These are the second and third iterations in the historic epic battle system. I'm excited to check them out for sure, and I think that I might be more attuned or appealed to the time periods in which these take place. These battles are more interesting to me than 1066, despite however cool Hastings is as a fight between the Normans and the Saxons. It is still kind of like a little bit older time period for me. I really liked the time period here with Napoleonic era, and to me one of the most exciting things was the beginning of the kind of riflemen who were like the sharpshooters of their time. I really liked that. And then also kind of the military tactics were exciting. And then also a, overwhelming odds siege narrative is exciting to me. I love Kingdom of Heaven, which dealt with a somewhat similar setting. If you've watched Kingdom of Heaven with Orlando Bloom, do yourself a favor and find the director's cut of that, because it is so much better. It adds like an hour to an hour and a half. It becomes like a 3 or 4 hour movie. It's quite a daunting time lapse or time difference, but it's such a better movie than the theatrical release that they did. And also, this is kind of what I think about at that time, where you have an overwhelming group that's within location being sieged by a very much larger force outside. So I'm excited to check out both of these. If you've played 1565, 1815, 1066, or if you're familiar with Tristan Hall and Hall or Nothing Productions with the Kill Force series or anything, please let me know. I'm curious what you guys think and if this is something that you would play, but it is definitely a heated 2-player exchange where it all comes down to how you adapt to the cards that you draw. I'm Devin. This is cool. I'm excited about it. And now this is the second video. Hopefully this one is the one that will work.